Have you ever paused long enough to notice that most of what you call your life isn't life itself, but a storm of thoughts and emotions echoing inside your own mind? That anxiety that keeps you awake at night, that memory that still cuts deep, that endless hunger for validation. None of it is reality as it is. It is only your mind, reflecting, twisting, and reshaping the world in ways you rarely question. And here is the truth most people avoid. If you never learn to take control of that reflection, you will move through life confused, overwhelmed, never truly touching the peace and clarity that were always within your reach. The Stoics understood this better than most. They knew that suffering does not come from life itself, but from the way the mind interprets it. And if you don't take control of your mind, it will quietly take control of you. If something in you feels this truth, don't ignore it. Let it wake you up. Decide, right now, that you will no longer live trapped inside distorted reflections, that you will choose clarity over confusion, strength over weakness, awareness over illusion. Because everything begins here, inside the mirror of your mind. Now think about this. Two people can stand in the exact same place, witness the exact same moment, and walk away with completely different realities. One sees hope, the other sees fear. One feels gratitude, the other feels resentment. Nothing outside has changed. Only the lens inside their mind has shifted. And if you're honest with yourself, this isn't rare. This is happening to you every single day. So the real question is not, what is happening to me? The real question is, what is my mind turning this into? Imagine standing in front of a distorted mirror. Your reflection stretches, shrinks, bends into something unfamiliar. Your head looks too large, your body uneven, your shape unnatural. But deep down, you know the truth. The reflection is not reality. It is only a distortion. Your mind works the same way. Pressure bends it in one direction. Ego bends it in another. Fear bends it even further. If your identity is built entirely on success, then failure will not just hurt. It will feel like your entire existence is collapsing. If you have convinced yourself that you are unwanted, even genuine kindness will feel suspicious, like there must be some hidden motive behind it. This is how powerful the mind's mirror truly is. Your repeated thoughts begin to stain it. Slowly, quietly, they color everything you see. Until one day, you are no longer seeing life as it is. You are only seeing the version your mind has painted. This is why two people can grow up in the same home, under the same roof, with the same parents, and still carry completely different versions of the past. One remembers warmth, laughter, connection. The other remembers pain, criticism, distance. It's not always that one is right and the other is wrong. It's that each of them lived through a different reflection. And over time, those reflections hardened into what they now call truth. The Stoics warned about this. They reminded us that events themselves are neutral. They carry no meaning until your mind assigns one. What happens to you is not what shapes your life. It is how your mind interprets what happens that defines everything. But here lies the real danger. Most people never question their perception. They assume that what they see must be reality. And so, distortion becomes truth. Anxiety darkens the future far beyond what it really is. Nostalgia softens the past, turning it into something it never truly was. And without even realizing it, you begin to live inside an illusion your own mind created that begins subtly. We start to believe that the future will be brighter than it ever truly was, that happiness is waiting somewhere ahead, locked behind a single achievement, a single possession, a single moment we haven't reached yet. Desire stretches reality. It pulls things out of proportion, convincing us that just one more step will finally make everything feel complete. But that feeling never lasts, because the mirror inside the mind keeps shifting. As Carl Jung once suggested, clarity does not come from chasing the outside world, it comes from turning inward. Those who only look outward remain trapped in dreams. Those who dare to look within begin to wake up. This is the real danger of the mind's mirror. It can keep you living inside illusions for years, unless you find the courage to look deeper, not just at the reflection, but at the one who is doing the looking. Let's make this real. Imagine walking into a room, and the moment you enter, 3 people suddenly stop talking. Nothing else happens. No explanation. No clear signal. Just silence. Now watch what your mind does. That if your inner mirror is shaped by insecurity, a thought appears instantly. They were talking about me. If your mind leans toward pride, a different story forms. They respect me too much to speak freely around me. But if your mind is steady, grounded, undisturbed, another possibility arises. Maybe they were simply finishing something private. Same moment, same situation, three completely different realities. The world didn't change. Your perception did. This is exactly why Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Because the mind doesn't just reflect the world. It edits it. It exaggerates it. And sometimes, it creates problems that never even existed. So what can you actually do about it? You don't destroy the mirror. You refine it. Think of an old mirror covered in dust. It doesn't need to be replaced. It doesn't need to be broken. It simply needs to be cleaned. Your mind works the same way. It doesn't need to be silenced forever, only trained, disciplined, understood. Polishing the mirror begins with a pause, a small space between what happens and how you react. The next time emotion rises, anger, fear, frustration, stop for a moment and ask yourself, is this feeling coming from reality or from the way my mind is shaping it? That single question is powerful because it interrupts the illusion before it takes control. It's like wiping away a smudge before trusting what you see. The more you practice this, the clearer things become. As Aristotle believed, true freedom belongs to the person who has mastered themselves. And every time you question your thoughts instead of obeying them, you take one step closer to that freedom. But this is not something you do once. It's not a quick fix. The mirror gathers dust again and again. Stress returns. Old patterns resurface. Judgments creep back in. That's why this must become a daily practice. Even a few quiet minutes can change everything. Sit with yourself, without distraction, and ask, what kind of thoughts are shaping my world today? What is my mind showing me, and is it true? That awareness alone begins to smooth the distortions. And slowly, almost unnoticed at first, something shifts. The noise becomes quieter. The reactions become softer. The fear loses its grip. And the mirror starts to reflect reality with more clarity, more honesty, more peace. But even then, we must remain humble. Because no mirror can ever show the full truth. A reflection can only capture what stands in front of it, never the deeper essence behind it. And this is where philosophy touches something greater. Because the real journey is not just about seeing clearly. It is about discovering the one who is seeing. Imagine this for a moment. Human life, as many philosophers have described it, is like sitting inside a dark cave, watching shadows dance across a wall, and believing those shadows are the whole of reality. That is what the untrained mind does. Even when your inner mirror becomes clearer, even when you polish it with discipline and awareness, it is still only reflecting impressions, shapes formed by your senses, your past, your conditioning. Not the full truth, only fragments. That's why the real journey goes beyond simply improving your perception. It is about stepping behind it. It is about discovering the silent observer, the one who is watching every thought, every emotion, every reaction unfold. And the moment, just for a second, you catch a glimpse of that deeper awareness. Something changes. Life no longer feels chaotic, random, or overwhelming. It begins to feel grounded, intentional, alive in a way that is difficult to explain, but impossible to ignore. So ask yourself honestly, are you lost inside reflections? Or are you slowly clearing the path toward clarity? Because the world outside is vast, rich, endlessly complex. But what you actually experience will always be limited by how clearly your inner mirror sees it. Master that mirror, and you don't just change your thoughts. You transform your entire experience of being alive. As Socrates once reminded us, a life that is never examined is a life not truly lived. And examining your inner world, your perceptions, your reactions, your patterns, that is where a meaningful life begins. Now take this idea even further. Pause and consider how different reality can appear depending on who, or what, is observing it. A forest at sunset might feel calm to you, peaceful, beautiful, still, but to a wolf, that same forest is not peaceful at all. It is strategy, movement, survival, a hunting ground. To a bird, that forest becomes something else entirely. A network of branches, pathways in the sky, a place to rest and rise again. And to a butterfly, it transforms into a living painting of color, a map of nectar and light. The The forest hasn't changed, not even slightly. What changes is the lens through which it is seen. And this is exactly how life works, not just for animals, but for you. Consider a predator. To it, you are not a person with dreams, fears, and memories. You are energy. You are survival, nothing more. Because its perception, its inner lens, has been shaped for one purpose: to continue living. Its world is simple, focused, efficient. Now compare that to a tiny creature like a grasshopper. Its awareness is tuned to vibrations, subtle movements, shifts in the environment. Its reality is completely different. And yet, both exist in the same world, the same ground, the same moment in time. What separates them is not reality itself, but the way it is experienced. And here's where it becomes powerful. As a human being, your mirror is far wider, far more complex. You are not limited to survival alone. You can perceive beauty. You can create meaning. You can feel love, curiosity, wonder. You can question existence itself. You can step back and observe your own thoughts. No other creature does this the way you can. This is your advantage. And also, your responsibility. Because your experience of life will always be shaped by what your mind focuses on. If your thoughts are chaotic, life will feel chaotic. If your thoughts are clear, life begins to feel clear. The world is constantly changing, moving, shifting, but your experience of it is built, moment by moment, by the thoughts you allow to take root within you. Your judgments, the way you interpret people, events, even yourself, they don't just reflect reality. They quietly build it. They shape the very experience you call your life. And this is where the danger begins. Because the same mind that gives you depth, meaning, and awareness also has the power to distort everything far beyond recognition. Bias, ego, rigid beliefs, unquestioned identities. All of these begin to shrink your perception. What was once a wide, open mirror slowly becomes narrow, limited, selective, until you are no longer seeing life as it is. You are only seeing what agrees with the story you've already decided to believe. The moment you attach yourself too tightly to labels, success or failure, right or wrong, us or them, you reduce your vision. You stop exploring and start defending, and without realizing it, your mind becomes no different from something far more primitive, focused only on what confirms its survival, its identity, its position. Everything else fades away. This is exactly the blindness the Stoics warned about. They understood that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but the meaning we assign to them. And once that meaning becomes fixed, it clouds everything. It fogs the mirror, until distortion begins to feel like truth. Think about how fast this happens. A stranger cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your mind reacts. He disrespected me. He thinks he's more important. Anger rises, tension builds. But pause for a moment. Another mind, calmer, less reactive, might see the same situation completely differently. Maybe he's in a rush. Maybe something urgent is happening. Same moment, same action, completely different experience. The difference wasn't the world. It was the interpretation. And here's something even deeper. Often, what irritates you about others has very little to do with them. It is a reflection of something within you, a projection to an unexamined part of your own mind, appearing in someone else's actions. So when you feel that strong emotional reaction, anger, frustration, judgment, instead of immediately trusting it, question it. Ask yourself, is this truth, or is this my mirror speaking? We like to believe that as humans, our perception is more advanced, more accurate, more intelligent. But is it really? Or have we simply become better at creating more complex illusions? Animals see the world in simple terms: survival, instinct, action. Their mirrors are narrow, but clear in their purpose. We, on the other hand, have the ability to see more. But that also means we have the ability to distort more, to overthink, to misinterpret, to create entire narratives that never truly existed. This is why self-awareness becomes so important. The moment you notice your thinking becoming rigid, the moment you catch yourself judging too quickly, the moment your world starts shrinking into only my way is right, that is your signal, your invitation to step back, to expand again. Because true wisdom doesn't come from always being right. It comes from seeing clearly, from understanding that your perspective is just one angle, not the whole truth. And when you begin to observe your own mind in this way, something powerful happens. Your vision widens. Your reactions soften. Your understanding deepens. Now think about the conflicts you see around you. Between countries, between communities, even within families. At their core, many of them are not about reality itself, but about distorted perceptions, each side looking through its own mirror, colored by fear, by pride, by past wounds, and each one believing, with complete certainty, that what they see is the truth, that you've been given something powerful. Control, not over the world outside, but over the world within. And the moment you truly understand that, something shifts. Because real strength doesn't come from forcing life to go your way. It comes from mastering how you see it. To refine your inner mirror, you must stop blaming the outside world for what is, at its core, a problem of perception. The world is not always against you, but your interpretation might be. A predator cannot change how it sees. It will always view the world through hunger. A tiny creature cannot change how it senses. It will always react to movement and danger. But you are different. You have a choice. You can expand your perception or limit it. You can bring clarity to your thoughts or allow them to become clouded. You can choose awareness over illusion. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, when you look at your life today, are you seeing it with openness, curiosity, depth? Or has your vision been narrowed by fear, by attachment, by judgment? Do you only see what you desire, what you dislike, what you expect to find? Because the true gift of being human is not simply that you experience the world. It is that you have the capacity to experience it more deeply, more consciously, more truthfully, if you choose to. And learning to make that choice, again and again, that is where mastery begins. Now here is something most people avoid thinking about. A quiet, uncomfortable truth. Many people reach the end of their lives without ever feeling truly at peace. Not because death is unexpected. We all know it's coming, but because of a realization that arrives too late, that they never truly lived. They were present, but not aware, moving, but not experiencing, breathing, but not fully alive. They confused the noise in their mind for reality itself. Endless thoughts, constant worries, replaying the past, anticipating the future, and somewhere in that noise, they missed the only thing that was ever real. This moment, when everything comes to an end, they look back and see it clearly. They were never fully on the stage of life, only watching it from inside their own minds. Think about your own day. How much of it do you actually spend experiencing what is in front of you? The sounds, the people, the present moment. And how much of it is lost inside your head, worrying about things that haven't happened, replaying conversations that are already over, imagining outcomes that may never exist. This is how life slips away, not in dramatic moments, but in quiet distractions, in unconscious patterns, in reflections that feel real but aren't. And unless you learn to see this, to catch yourself drifting, to return again and again to what is real, you risk reaching the end with the same realization that you were always close to life, but never fully inside it. Think about how much of your life is truly lived and how much of it is only imagined. Replaying old conversations, rehearsing future scenarios that may never happen, running through endless what-ifs inside your head. For many people, life doesn't unfold in reality. It unfolds in thought, as if they're sitting in a dark theater, watching shadows flicker across a screen, completely unaware that a real, vibrant world exists just outside. This is the quiet tragedy, because avoiding the outside world is not the real problem. Avoiding yourself is. Many people will fill their lives with noise, distraction, and constant stimulation, not because they enjoy it, but because silence forces them to face what's within. And that is uncomfortable. So they keep moving, keep scrolling, keep distracting themselves. Anything to avoid that moment of stillness where truth begins to surface. But in running from themselves, they slowly drift away from life itself. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't dwell on death to create fear. They reflected on it to create urgency, a reminder that time is not endless, that this moment, right now, is not guaranteed to return. And yet, most people live as if they have forever. They postpone life. I'll start living after this goal, after I achieve more, after everything is settled. But that later is an illusion, because life is not something waiting in the future. It is happening now. And when the end finally arrives, the realization can be overwhelming. not because death is unexpected, but because life was never fully experienced. There is a deep confusion that comes from this, a kind of disorientation, as if waking up from a long dream, only to realize that you were never truly present within it. The truth is simple, but difficult to accept. It's not that we are given too little time. It's that we lose so much of it, not to real experiences, but to thoughts about experiences. Instead of living, we simulate life in our minds. We think about doing things instead of doing them. We imagine conversations instead of having them. We worry about outcomes instead of engaging with the moment. And then one day, time runs out. Picture someone who spends their entire life climbing higher and higher, only to realize at the very end that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. All that effort, all that time, directed towards something that was never truly meaningful. This is what happens when your inner mirror takes control. You begin chasing reflections, status, approval, recognition, material success, because your mind convinces you that these things are life itself. But when everything falls away, none of it goes with you. What remains is a quiet question. Did I ever truly live? But here's what matters most. You don't have to wait until the end to ask that question. You can ask it now. You can interrupt the pattern today. Pause and look at your own life. Are you experiencing it? Or are you thinking about it? When you spend hours lost in your phone, when your mind is arguing, worrying, imagining, are you living? Or are you just watching shadows? Because this is the choice in front of you, to remain inside the illusion, or to turn around and face what is real. Most people never make that turn. They stay where it's familiar, where it's comfortable. But stepping beyond that requires awareness. It requires courage. Because when you begin to see clearly, you also begin to see how much you've been missing. The mind, when left unchecked, runs everything in the background. It shapes your decisions, your habits, your entire direction in life. And you call it fate. But it was never fate. It was unconscious living. It was a mirror you never questioned, quietly deciding everything for you. So mastering your mind doesn't mean controlling every thought. That's impossible. It means waking up. It means noticing when you've drifted into imagination and gently bringing yourself back to what is real, to this breath, to this moment, to this experience. And it doesn't require anything dramatic. It begins with small awakenings, simple shifts. The next time you're waiting, don't reach for distraction immediately. Just be there. Feel your breath. Notice your surroundings. When you eat, don't rush. Actually taste the food. Be present with it. These small moments seem insignificant, but they are where life actually exists. Not in your thoughts, not in your projections, but right here, in what is real. Instead of eating while your mind drifts somewhere else, be there. Taste it. Feel it. Experience it. Because that is where life is happening. And when emotion rises, especially anger, don't react instantly. Pause, even for a few seconds, and ask yourself, is this what actually happened, or is this my mind shaping it into something else? That small pause changes everything. Because in that space, you interrupt the illusion. You stop the distortion before it takes over. And over time, these small moments begin to add up. They retrain your mind. They teach it to reflect more clearly, instead of reacting blindly. Now here is the paradox most people never understand. The more you try to avoid thinking about death, the more confusing and terrifying it becomes when it finally arrives. But the more you accept it, the more you allow it to exist in your awareness, the more alive you begin to feel. Because suddenly, time is no longer something you assume. It becomes something you value. It becomes real. Death itself is not what disturbs us. What disturbs us is pretending it doesn't exist. Living as if there is always more time, more chances, more tomorrows. But when you truly accept that every moment is limited, something shifts inside you. Ordinary moments stop feeling ordinary. A simple breath becomes meaningful. A quiet morning becomes enough. A conversation becomes something you actually feel. This is why so many people reach the end confused. Not because life was too short, but because they spent it escaping discomfort, chasing illusions, avoiding silence. They never slowed down long enough to see clearly. But you don't have to follow that path. You can choose something different. You can choose presence. You can choose awareness. You can begin to clear the mirror and see what has always been there. And when you do, death no longer feels like an interruption. It no longer feels like something foreign or terrifying. It feels like something understood, something accepted. And when that moment comes, you won't meet it with confusion. You'll meet it with clarity, maybe even with a quiet sense of gratitude, because you actually lived. Now the choice is yours. Will you continue chasing reflections, illusions, endless thoughts? Or will you turn and step into what is real? The path has already been shown. Wisdom has always been available. The only question is, will you walk it before time runs out? Now let's bring this down to something practical. Because understanding is not enough. It must become something you live. One of the hardest truths to accept is this. Most of what disturbs your life is not coming from the world outside. It is coming from within. The overthinking, the constant comparisons, the imagined fears, the internal arguments that never end. None of these are reality itself. They are distortions, dust collecting on the mirror of your mind. And just like a mirror left untouched, the more dust gathers, the less clearly you see. Eventually, you stop seeing reality altogether. You only see the distortion. This is why clarity doesn't come from adding more information, more opinions, more noise. It comes from removing what doesn't belong. It comes from cleaning, from simplifying, from becoming aware. Imagine starting your day differently. Instead of reaching for your phone, instead of diving straight into chaos, you sit quietly, just for a moment, 2 minutes. That's all. You breathe, and you watch your thoughts rise and pass like clouds in the sky. You don't chase them. You don't fight them. You simply notice. This is where it begins. It's simple, but it's not easy, because the mind is restless. It wants stimulation. It wants distraction. But if you stay, even briefly, something begins to change. The noise softens. The tension loosens. What once felt overwhelming begins to lose its grip. The dust starts to settle. And slowly, clarity returns. Now here's why this matters more than anything. Because if you don't learn to observe your mind, if you don't learn to question your thoughts, then they will control your life without you even realizing it. They will shape your decisions, your emotions, your entire experience of reality. And you will call it who you are. But it was never you. It was only an unexamined reflection. So the practice is simple, but powerful. Pause, observe, question, return, again and again, until one day, you are no longer lost in the mirror. You are no longer reacting to every distortion. You are no longer chasing shadows. You are seeing clearly, living fully, present, aware, awake. And in that state, life is no longer something you think about. It is something you actually experience. And that is where everything changes. Final truth, the ending. One day, everything will fall silent. The noise, the thoughts, the endless movement of the mind, gone. And in that final stillness, only one question will remain. Did you truly live? Or did you only think about living? Right now, you still have the chance to answer that question differently. Not with words, but with the way you choose to live. So don't wait. Don't postpone. Don't tell yourself later. Because life is not waiting ahead of you. It is here, in this breath, in this moment. Right now, turn away from the shadows. Step beyond the mirror. And finally, live.